I've made $29,000 from one webinar selling AI solutions to local businesses. In this video, I'll explain what my pipeline was, the AI sales reps that I was using for myself, as well as how many clients I closed. We've been running the ads on Facebook. This is the main campaign. You can see that it generated almost 200 leads for the $15 per lead price. I really messed up the tracking. We were receiving much more leads here from different campaigns. So we ended up spending on this main campaign about $3,000 plus $1,500 from other campaigns. So ended up between $4.3 to $4,500 in total. We were using actually two creatives, but this is the main one that was performing for this specific campaign. You can see that it is a static one. Learn to use AI lead activation system to your local business, the thing, and then the call to action to the free webinar, then some random screenshots. The landing page was actually very simple. We have tested multiple ones, and I will share the conversion rate in the results that we got and what was influencing this conversion rate. But the idea was that we're having the logo, then the actual webinar reminder to remind people why they just clicked on this ad, then the headline, the invitation with the video. Again, we were testing with or without the video, then the call to action and some information on how these reps and lead activation system works. When people click on this claim your free ticket here, the pops up getting opened. Again, there's another title and they fill out the form right here. We are also using one of the AI sales reps for the website that was providing more information about the webinar for people who are curious, so that we can make sure that the people who are actually registering are qualified. So here are the results. As you can see, we've been running different landing pages with different conversion rate. Now, don't pay too much attention to this specific conversion, which is 50%, which was kind of the warmer traffic to the email list that I was having. So these are the actual numbers for this specific range. So you can see that it is about 20%. Now, we did test with video or without video. I think one of the A/B tests here was with or without the video. Haven't noticed too big of a difference, but after analyzing, we are using Vidalix for the hosting video sales letters. So after analyzing, we understood that about 45% actually click on the video to watch it at least for a few seconds. And we decided to keep the video to show my face so that people are getting used to seeing me this way, building the connections. So we were okay even to lose, 2 to 5% of the conversion, because I knew that most of the people will remember the face. And then once they hop on the webinar, they will be more familiar with it. Now, you can also see that here we have been trying to do the different upsells to self-liquidate some of the cost, because honestly, that was kind of the very new local business niche. We've run multiple of these webinars before, and we found a lot of the success in each one of them, but that was kind of a newer niche, and we saw that the pay per registration was kind of high, and I was like thinking on how to self-liquidate the cost. That is why I was like, okay, so how about we try to upsell people after they register? So they are inputting the information, so they are clicking on this button right here, then the pop-up gets open, so they fill out the information, and instead of going, it says, to the thank you page and adding the event to their calendar, it actually goes to the second middle page, which is the upsell. On the upsell, I was trying to sell $27, we were testing, as you can see, $7 here product, which was kind of the workshop and the automation suite of tools and automations in case that person wants to try to implement it themselves for the business. But it didn't really work out, because you can see that the conversion to this page was 8%, meaning out of the 100 people that landed to this specific page, about 6 or 8 converted. But you can see here 20, 40, it's like 0 conversion. So on average, I would say we were having probably 5% conversion on the upsell, and this is pretty understandable. People are signing up for the free webinar. Upsells work really good if you are doing something paid, if you're doing the paid webinar, if you're doing a paid workshop or something. But because it is free, free. They do not expect to input any of their, credit card information. That is why I decided to actually not stick with it, even though we made maybe like a few $100s here. So in total, we got 506 signups, spending, as I said, about $4,500 on it. So had about like $9 per sign up price. So here's what happened next. When people were signing up, we were starting the engagement flow, which is the new sign up webinar flow that you can see right here. So let's go over it step by step. The first one is we were making sure that the person came from the ad and not through the organic newsletter list. And depending on where they came from, we were adding the tag. Then we were, booking an appointment with this customer, which is kind of the trick, because we then will actually use the delays based on the appointment time. So like remind this person 2 hours before an appointment. So we'll talk about the reminders later. That is why this person in our high level account needs to have an appointment. So we created a dummy calendar that we were using for the appointment and making sure that this appointment is not actually sending any notification to this person to not confuse him. So then we were waiting for, 14 minutes, inviting people to our school through Zapier. And the reason for that is because I wanted to give them some sort of the access. So I just created like a free school community, and they were like going in there. Again, there's like not too many questions. They're not doing anything, but it's just an additional resource for them, where in the classroom section, I have all of my videos, all of the case studies for other companies combined there. So then depending on what they bought and like, are they signing up, they signed up and bought the upsell, we're actually sending the conversion API events to the Facebook, because this is the only way to track it correctly, and then sending the email to make sure that they got access to the school as well as to the additional resources, plus confirming the actual appointment. And then we were sending what we call the engagement messages. So you can see that this is the SMS message saying, hey, it's Eugene, just so you registered for my webinar, I want to clarify a few things. Can we chat here? And the same thing for the WhatsApp. Now for the WhatsApp, we were using actual template, and we created the template in a way for it to be a utility template, because you cannot send, especially to the US based numbers, the marketing templates outside of the 24-hour window. That is why it is there. So basically we were confirming all the details, making sure that the tracking works, and engaging with them. And you will understand why we need it. So whenever we are sending the engagement, we were sending them again the email, the SMS, and the WhatsApp. Once they replied, the second AI sales rep, if you remember, the first one was connected to our website right here. The second AI sales rep was starting to talk to them. So here are like a few examples. This is the example from the outreach message, right? So here we're sending the outreach message, as you can see, because this prospect was probably in the UK. We're running the UK, Australia, United States, and Canada. And the default number in the high level is the US number. That is why you cannot by default send messages to the UK numbers, so it throws the error. But this person had the actual WhatsApp, so he replied, yeah, sure. And then the bot was starting to ask the questions. So you can see that it is a pretty fluent conversation. I've been covering this AI sales rep on my channel multiple times. The goal for this rep is to first understand if this is the actual business, or if this is the person who wants to resell this kind of lead activation system. Now, actually, I've ran 2 webinars, one before that for the people who want to resell, and one after that we're talking right now for the people who want to use it for their business. That is why the bot was kind of qualifying them first, making sure that the people who show up are actually going to be interested to use the system in their business, because these are going to be high ticket products that we're selling on the webinar afterwards. Same thing applies to the text. Again, it doesn't matter which channel they reply on, email, text, or WhatsApp. The same webinar, what we call engagement agent, is replying, making them excited, qualifying to make sure that they are the proper fit, and just reminding them to make sure that they need to show up in order to understand everything. So we got 210 people talking to the AI, which is really good. Now, of course, this is kind of throughout the period of webinar launch that the people were starting to respond to the messages. They don't necessarily respond at the same day, but generally speaking, you can see that it is 40%. So 40% that registered for the webinar replied to the message. Now, of course, most of these people, 99% of them, didn't realize that they were talking to my AI sales rep. So they were thinking that they're talking to Eugene, who is the host. So they already started to build more and more relationships. This is going back to why I decided to put the VSL video on the website, even though it is like only 2 minutes, to build better connection. So here we're building it even more to increase the show up rate and increase the commitment. So here is how the actual Gino works. So Gino is basically our AI sales rep. I'm not going to go over the technical setup here. I've been showing it multiple times on the YouTube channel, but you can see here that we are having this webinar agent. So whenever we identify that this prospect have just registered on the webinar, it's actually signing him up to this agent, and this agent has a separate set of prompts that it is programmed on, and it has like a separate flow that it needs to follow. You can see that we have a website agent, and going back into our website, so these are two different agents. Now they are actually powered by our N8N engine, but these are kind of two separate sub agents. The only difference here is the prompt. Now, all of them are having access to all of the booking functionality to book appointment at any time, but this is not needed. You can see that only the engagement agent currently is connected to all of these booking functions. So this was basically our engine after people were engaging with us. So then before the webinar, we've been running a lot of the reminders because yes, building the relationship is a good thing, but you can see that 3 days before webinar, I've been sending email with learning materials. 2 days before the webinar, I've been sending the video for them, then the please stop type of the personal post on how they want to proceed with the AI and not getting stuck in trying to learn everything themselves. And then the webinar reminder 5 hours before, 2 hours before, email, SMS, and the WhatsApp. Again, this is also a utility template. That is why we can easily send it outside of the 24-hour window. Then 15 minutes webinar reminder, then 2 minutes. It's basically like the webinar is starting right now. You can see we're live during the webinar and we're sending the direct link. Now, here is how many people showed up. You can see that again, 500 people registered, 200 people started to talk to the AI. But before I reveal this number, I want to mention one thing. I messed up badly. Okay, like really badly on this webinar. I actually messed it up 2 times for both of the webinars because I haven't checked them. I almost run them one by one. So it was hosted on Zoom webinars, right? And of course, like there are pros and cons for hosting the webinar on Zoom and not, for example, on the specifically designed software for the webinars where people can watch it in the browser. They don't need to download the Zoom app. But because that was kind of for the B2B industry, that was, pretty fine for me. And this is what we've been always using. But I forgot to untick password protection. Okay. So only the people who registered for the webinar or knew the password could log in. Yes, they did sign up here, but these signups are the actual signups from the website, not from the actual, Zoom. So after they were filling out this form before the upsell, again, we've been testing the upsell for multiple times and then we close this up. So the final page is just a redirect to the webinar link. So which is the Zoom webinar link where they input their details again. And now they confirm the registration and can also add the event from the Zoom directly to their calendar. Anyways, so yes, this is kind of a hiccup, like a few different steps, and I needed to make it more simple, but it was always working, but I forgot to untick the, the option to enter without a password. So we got 121, show ups. And at the point of when I was starting to record and when I was starting the actual webinar, I saw about 150 people. And of course, I knew that about 15% of these people are actually like AI note takers. And I was kind of disappointed, like because the webinar actually, like we give it about like 3 minutes for the the webinar to start, like to ask, hey guys, where are you from? And here's the plan, before like actually going in. So I was like questioning my entire existence, thinking what we have done wrong, why the show up rate is so low, because it is like extremely low. I was thinking, okay, maybe we messed up with the ads, maybe the tracking was not right, and the actual like something was happening. Now, fortunately, it didn't really influence the way I was presenting the information. So I was like, kind of, okay, fuck that. So I'm gonna continue. And only then, after, you know, going through both of the webinars, I actually logged in to the inbox that was attached to the webinar and saw that people are saying that they don't have the password. So like I was having like 150 emails of people saying that they don't have the password and they couldn't log in. Now, of course, you can say that there is a recording. Sure, I've sent a recording. A few people actually bought from the recording, but at the end of the day, the show up rate should be at about like 200, which is again really good when it comes to the general show up rate for the business related webinars. Now, in terms of the presentation, I learned everything from this, you know, guy. I highly recommend you to watch him. He has his 24-step framework for the, you know, for the actual presentation. This is actually the guy behind, you know, Hormozi webinars, and he was working with the Russell Brunson. So he's like really good. His information is good. And at one point when I was learning, I was always doing, you know, 15-20 slides presentation. And he told me that, hey, I mean, not personally, I was like watching the videos. He told that you need to ideally have the slides changing every 10 to 15 seconds. So ideally for the 1 hour webinar, you need to have like 360 slides. I was like, holy shit. So that is why for like all of the previous webinars that I've been running for the local businesses and for, you know, for the people who want to resell this lead activation system, I was, you know, preparing the presentation for almost like 20 hours. So this is like the best presentation that I have ever done, because it is probably what, like 86 slides. I was using Gamma to create it, but I was not using the Gamma AI feature. It was just a presentation that is nicely aligned with multiple graphic points. Now, comment under this video if you want to show me this presentation to you at some point and go through each and every step, why it is there and how it is helping to nurture the actual business into you and into your services. But the structure was pretty simple. Again, there's like 3-minute start, then the 40 minutes of value, then the 10-minute pitch of why they need to go with you. And then I was planning for the Q&A. Usually I planned for 15 minutes, but it was actually 35 minutes. So the engagement was high, which I already started to realize, like we will get a really good results. We'll close a lot of the clients from this webinar because the engagement was like very high and there was like a lot of the action in the chat. So here's what happened. Out of the 500 signups, 200 people talked to the AI and 120 people showed up. We got 8 deposits and already converted and closed 4 clients. Now let me give you the concept. So we are getting the $100 deposits for the local business webinars. Again, for other webinars for the Sell AI niche, we have like a different type of the structure, but here we are getting $100 deposits, meaning that we are, so I say that we release only 8 available slots for the system to be implemented into your business, and we are actually giving them the trial option for them to enroll, but this trial option is included in their price, and if they are not satisfied with the trial, we'll refund them the money. So we do the trial, but we charge them upfront. Now, I don't want to go in too much details in this video on the offer that we were running and on the pricing structure and why it was happening. You can watch other videos. So this is something new that we've been testing, and as you can see, the results are like really good. That's why we will continue to do the same thing. So we got the 8 deposits, so it was like kind of $800 cash collected. Now, out of this 8 deposits, I think 5 actually happened on the webinar and 3 after I sent the recording in a few hours to the people who, you know, couldn't get in, and we got 4 clients. So the pipeline is, so there is a webinar. On the webinar, they do the deposit. Deposit is $100, and the next page, so they're doing the deposit on this page, and then on the next page, this is like a calendar where they book an appointment. Of course, I was giving the price to the clients, like to the webinar participants on the webinar. So I was saying that in order to implement this system, it will cost you $4,000 to $10,000 depending on your scenario. But we only release 8 slots right now, so you need to book it in. So that is why they paid $100 to lock it in. Now, of course, you can say that, so it's basically we got 12 deposits and we released only 8 slots. Yeah, I mean, It's pretty standard. So we're like, if like people that are wanting to buy, we're not gonna limit it, of course, into 8 places only. So here are the monetary results. So we closed 29,000 worth of deals, which is not yet cash collected. Now you can see that we still have 4 clients, sorry, from 8 deposits. So we already have 4 clients and we have 4 meetings left. There is like 100% show up, obviously, because they paid the deposit, but I already collected almost $9,000, which is the actual money that I collected after the call, meaning they paid the deposit, right? And then I was pitching them the service. The service was from $4,000 to $10,000, and then I was collecting the money upfront. So because you can see that we did close 8 clients, so if you divide, 8 by 4, sorry, not 8, 4 clients. So it's basically like on average $2,000 that I did charge upfront. Now there is one guy that I charged $500 upfront. There is one guy that I charged $4,500 upfront, and then whatever. So I was obviously charging them different prices depending on their situation, but I was charging the upfront. And within this upfront payment, there was a trial, meaning if they are not satisfied with the results that they're getting from the trial is 2 months, we will refund them the money. So if they are satisfied, they will pay the remaining amount, and then they'll pay the monthly maintenance. Again, it depends on the use case. So as you can see, deposit value and the client's value. So this is basically the structure of the webinar that I was running, because we started to receive a really nice results from the webinars recently, especially with our self-selling funnel, which is basically powered by a lot of the different workflows, automations, and multiple AI sales reps. Now, to be completely fair, this is the second sales rep. There is the first one is on the website, the second one is on the engagement. We have the third one that is chatting with them, selling the product after the webinar, and the fourth one is actually chatting with them and providing more information after they booked the appointment and paid the deposit. We'll go over this probably in some of next videos if you are interested. Thank you for watching. Peace.